The massive alien ship blocked out the sun as it moved toward Earth's orbital station. Commander Park Hyun stood at the observation deck, watching the ship grow larger and larger. His hands were calm behind his back, but his mind was racing. "Sir, they're requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant Kim Nari from the communication station. Her voice was steady, but Park could see the worry in her eyes. "Let them come," Park said quietly. "We've been waiting for this day." The alien ship was 3 times bigger than any human vessel. Its dark metal hull had strange symbols carved into it. Energy weapons lined its sides like angry teeth. This was a Vectan warship, and everyone knew what that meant. Admiral Lee Day walked up beside Park. The old man had fought in the outer colonies for 20 years. He had seen alien technology before, but nothing like this. "They brought friends," Lee said, pointing to the scanner display. 3 more ships were approaching from different directions. Each one belonged to a different alien race. Each one was armed for war. "Of course they did," Park replied. "They want to make sure we understand." Ambassador Choi Minho hurried into the command center. His diplomatic uniform was perfect, but sweat covered his forehead. He had been trying to reach the Galactic Council for weeks. Every message came back with the same response: "Prepare for judgment." Commander Choi said, breathing hard, "I've reviewed all our treaties. There's no legal basis for this. Earth has followed every galactic law." Park turned to look at the Ambassador. "Minho, laws only matter when both sides respect them. These aliens don't respect anything except strength." The docking bay shook as the alien ship connected to the station. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. The sound was wrong, too heavy, too sharp. "Not human." Dr. Kim Nari pulled up her research files on her tablet. She had studied every alien species humanity had encountered. The Vectans were warriors who conquered worlds for sport. The Zephyrians were traders who sold defeated species as slaves. The Krillians were scientists who experimented on other races. The Mordaki were hunters who collected sentient beings like trophies. "They're not here to negotiate," Nari whispered to Park. "Every one of these species has destroyed civilizations before." "I know," Park said, "but they've never met humans." The main doors to the command center opened with a loud hiss. 4 alien figures walked in, each one different from the others. The Vectan was tall and covered in thick armor. Its face was hidden behind a metal mask, but red eyes glowed through the eye holes. The Zephyrian was thin and moved like a snake. Its skin was blue and covered in scales. The Krillian had 6 arms and carried several strange devices. The Mordaki was the largest, with claws that could cut through steel. Behind them walked a dozen smaller aliens carrying weapons. They spread out around the room, making sure no human could escape. The Vectan stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "I am War Chief Vexter of the Vectan Empire. You are Commander Park Hyun of the human species." "That's correct," Park said calmly. He didn't move from his position. "Your species has been judged by the Galactic Council," Vextar continued. "You have expanded too quickly. You have taken resources that belong to the established races. You have shown aggression toward peaceful traders." Ambassador Choi stepped forward. "That's not true. We have documentation proving silence." The Zephyrian's voice was like a whisper, but it filled the room. "Humans are not permitted to speak unless asked." Dr. Nara's hands tightened on her tablet. She had been studying these aliens for months. Every one of them saw humans as primitive animals. They couldn't understand how humans had developed space travel so quickly. They thought it was luck or stolen technology. The Krillian raised one of its devices and pointed it at Admiral Lee. "This one has killed our people in the outer systems. He should be executed immediately." "Not yet," Vexter said. "First, they must hear their options." The war chief pulled out a data tablet and began reading. "The Galactic Council has decided that Earth will surrender all colonies beyond the Sol system. Earth will provide 1 billion humans as workers for the member species. Earth will surrender all military vessels and weapons. Earth will accept a Galactic Council governor to rule your species." The room was silent. Every human in the command center stared at the aliens. The demands were impossible. They were asking for humanity to become slaves. "What happens if we refuse?" Park asked. The Mordaki let out a sound like laughter. "Your planet will be destroyed. Your species will be extinct. Your colonies will be taken by force. How long do we have to decide?" Ambassador Choi asked. "You have already decided," Vextar said. "You will accept these terms now, or you will die now." Park looked around the room. He saw the fear in his people's eyes. He saw the anger in Admiral Lee's face. He saw the determination in Dr. Nara's expression. These aliens thought they could threaten humanity and expect surrender. Park stepped forward until he was face to face with the Vectan war chief. "I need to make sure I understand. You're saying that if we don't become your slaves, you'll try to destroy us." "That is correct," Vexter said. "Your species is young and weak. You have no choice." Park nodded slowly. "You want war?" "If necessary," Vextar replied. Park smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who had been waiting for this moment. Then brace for the end you chose. The aliens looked at each other. They had expected begging. They had expected fear. They had expected immediate surrender. They had not expected this calm acceptance of war. You cannot win, the Zephyrian said. We have destroyed hundreds of species. We have fleets that cover the sky. We have weapons that can crack planets. Maybe, Park said, but you've never fought humans before. Vexstar's red eyes glowed brighter. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your small population cannot match our numbers. Your backward technology cannot compete with our advanced systems. We'll see, Park said simply. The Krillian raised its scanner and pointed it at Park. This one shows no fear. This is unusual for a primitive species. Fear is a luxury we can't afford, Park replied. You've given us a choice between slavery and death. That's not really a choice. Admiral Lee stepped beside Park. When do you want our answer? Now, Vexstar said. Park looked at each alien in turn. Then he looked at his own people. Every human in the room was watching him. The future of their species depended on his next words. Here's our answer, Park said. Go back to your ships. Go back to your masters. Tell them that humanity chooses to fight. The command center erupted into chaos. The alien guards raised their weapons. The human officers reached for their sidearms, but Park raised his hand, and everyone froze. You're on our station, Park said calmly. You came here under diplomatic protection. You'll leave the same way. But when you go, understand this. You started this war. We're going to finish it. The aliens stared at him in disbelief. No primitive species had ever refused their ultimatum. No young race had ever chosen war over submission. Vexter's mask tilted slightly. You will regret this decision. No, Park said, you will. 3 days after the aliens left Earth's orbital station, War Chief Vexstar was preparing his invasion fleet. His massive command ship floated in space near the edge of the Sol system. Around him, hundreds of alien warships waited for orders. The humans think they can fight us, Vexstar said to his officers. They will learn what happens to species who refuse the Council's will. On his screen, Earth looked small and blue. It seemed impossible that such a tiny world could challenge the might of 4 alien empires. Vexstar had destroyed dozens of planets just like it. Sir, his communications officer said, we're getting strange readings from the outer colonies. What kind of readings? Vexstar asked. Energy signatures. Lots of them. It looks like the humans are more active than we thought. Vexstar laughed. They're probably trying to hide their children and treasures. All primitive species do the same thing when they face extinction, but at that same moment, on a small world called New Busan, something very different was happening. General Song Wu stood in an underground command center that stretched for miles beneath the planet's surface. Thousands of human soldiers worked at computer stations. Giant screens showed star maps covering half the galaxy. All stations report ready, sir, said Captain Kong Jinu. He was young, but his eyes were hard like an old warrior's. Good Song said, send the signal to all hidden bases. Operation Sunrise begins now. Across 50 star systems, human colonies that looked peaceful and defenseless began to change. Farms opened up to reveal missile silos. Cargo ships split apart to show the warships hidden inside. Mining stations turned into military bases. Trade routes became patrol corridors. The aliens had thought they were watching primitive humans spread slowly across space. They were wrong. Humanity had been preparing for war since the day they first met aliens 20 years ago. Engineered. Yunhana worked in a secret laboratory deep inside an asteroid. Around her, dozens of scientists put finishing touches on weapons the aliens had never seen before. The gravity hammers are ready, she told General Song over the communication system. We can turn any asteroid field into a weapon. What about the stealth ships? Song asked. Captain Kong's fleet is invisible to alien sensors. Yun replied, we've been testing them for 5 years. The aliens still don't know we have them. Song smiled grimly. And the other project, Dr. Shinyora says the quantum drives are working perfectly. We can move faster than any alien ship. In another part of the galaxy, Dr. Shinyora was making final checks on humanity's most secret weapon. She stood in a laboratory that didn't exist on any official records. Even most humans didn't know about it. The test results are perfect. She told her team, we can fold space in ways the aliens never imagined. Her assistant, Dr. Oh Jinwoo, looked worried. Are you sure this will work in real combat? It worked when we tested it on that abandoned Vecton scout ship, Guro replied. Their technology is impressive, but it follows patterns. Once you understand the patterns, you can break them. Meanwhile, War Chief Vexstar was getting reports that confused him. His scout ships were finding human colonies that were much stronger than expected. Sir, his intelligence officer said, the human colony on Kepler 442 has weapons that can damage our shields. Impossible, Vexter said. Humans don't have that technology. The weapons appear to be modified versions of our own designs. Sir, but they're more powerful than the originals. Vexstar's red eyes glowed with anger. How did they get our technology? What he didn't know was that humans had been quietly collecting alien technology for 20 years. Every crashed ship, every failed sensor, every piece of alien equipment that broke down was studied by human scientists. They didn't just copy alien technology, they made it better. Captain Kong Jinu piloted his stealth ship through the alien fleet. His ship was invisible to their sensors, but he could see everything. The aliens had positioned their ships exactly as human intelligence predicted they would. Ghost leader to all units, he whispered into his radio. The aliens are following their standard attack pattern. Begin Phase 1. Around the alien fleet, 50 human ships appeared from nowhere. They had been hiding in the shadows of asteroids and dead planets. The aliens hadn't detected them because human stealth technology was built from studying how aliens used sensors. The human ships opened fire with weapons that made no sense to the aliens. Gravity beams turned asteroids into projectiles traveling at incredible speeds. Energy weapons that learned from alien designs cut through alien shields like paper. What's happening? Vexstar shouted as his ship was hit by weapons that shouldn't exist. The humans have a fleet, sir, his officer replied. They're everywhere. But this was just the beginning. On New Sol, a colony world the aliens thought was defenseless, Colonel Bae Soman was leading her Special Forces team on a very different kind of mission. The alien communication station is 2 kilometers ahead. She told her soldiers, remember, we go in quiet, we get the codes, and we disappear. The alien communication station was supposed to be secret. It coordinated attacks between the 4 alien species, but human intelligence had found it months ago. They had been watching and learning. Bae's team moved through the alien base like shadows. They used technology that combined human creativity with alien engineering. Their weapons were silent. Their armor made them nearly invisible. Their computers could break alien encryption in minutes. Codes acquired, whispered Sergeant Lim Tyke. We have access to their entire communication network. Good, Bae replied. Now we can hear everything they're planning. Back in space, the alien fleet was discovering that fighting humans was very different from fighting other species. Most races surrendered when they saw the size of the alien force. Humans seemed to get more dangerous when they were outnumbered. Engineer Yoon Hannah activated her gravity weapons. Asteroids that had been floating peacefully in space suddenly accelerated to incredible speeds. They smashed into alien ships with the force of nuclear bombs. Impossible, Vexstar screamed. How are they controlling gravity? His science officer looked terrified. Sir, they're using principles we don't understand. This shouldn't be possible with their technology level. What the aliens didn't realize was that humans approached science differently. Aliens followed rules and traditions. Humans broke rules and made new ones. When humans found alien technology, they didn't just copy it. They asked, how can we make this work better? Dr. Shinyora proved this when her quantum ships appeared. Inside the alien formation, they hadn't traveled through space. They had folded space around themselves, appearing exactly where they wanted to be. Surprise, she said as her weapons powered up. The quantum ships fired at point-blank range. Alien vessels that had seemed invincible exploded like fireworks. The aliens realized they weren't fighting primitive humans anymore. They were fighting something they had never encountered. Sir, Vexstar's officer said, we've lost 30% of our fleet in the first hour. How is that possible? Vexstar demanded. The humans knew we were coming, the officer replied. They knew our tactics, they knew our weaknesses. They were ready for us? On Earth, Commander Park Hyun watched the battle reports with quiet satisfaction. The aliens had made the same mistake that many species made when fighting humans. They had underestimated human ability to learn and adapt. Admiral Lee, he said, signal all fleets. Begin Phase 2. What's Phase 2, sir? Asked Dr. Kim Nari Park. Smiled. Now we show them what humans do when we're really angry. In space, the alien fleet was learning that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was the human refusal to give up. Every time the aliens thought they had one, more human ships appeared. Every time they destroyed a human base, 2. More attacked them from behind. War Chief Vexstar finally understood what Commander Park had meant. The humans hadn't just chosen war. They had chosen to win, no matter what it cost. Retreat, he ordered. Pull back to the jump point. But as his ships tried to escape, they found their path blocked by Captain Kong's stealth fleet. The humans had been planning this battle for 20 years. Every move the aliens made had been predicted and countered. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. War Chief Vexstar's remaining ships limped back to the Vectan homeworld. Half his fleet was gone. The survivors looked broken and afraid. These were warriors who had conquered entire star systems, but they had never faced anything like humanity. How many ships did we lose? Vexstar asked his second-in-command. 230, sir, the officer replied quietly. The humans destroyed them with weapons we don't understand. Vexstar slammed his fist on the command table. They're primitives. They only discovered space travel 300 years ago. But across the galaxy, humanity was proving that time meant nothing when survival was at stake. Colonel Bay Salmon stood in the shadows of a Zephyrian command base. Her team had been inside enemy territory for 2 weeks. They moved like ghosts, striking targets and disappearing before the aliens knew what happened. Target acquired, whispered Sergeant Lim Tyke through the radio. The Zephyrian High Command is meeting in the central tower. Perfect, Bay replied. Remember, we don't kill them. We want them to spread fear. The human infiltration team moved through the alien base using technology the Zephyrians had never seen. Their suits bent light around them, making them invisible. Their weapons fired silent energy pulses that disabled alien equipment without destroying it. They reached the command center, where 12 Zephyrian leaders were planning their next attack on human colonies. The aliens felt safe in their most secure facility. They were wrong. Bay's team appeared in the middle of the room, like demons from Nightmare. Before the aliens could react, every piece of technology in the room stopped working. Lights went out. Communications died. Weapons failed. Greetings, Colonel Bay said in perfect Zephyrian language. We bring a message from humanity. The alien commanders froze in terror. They had thought their base was impossible to infiltrate. Humans shouldn't be able to speak their language. Nothing about this made sense. How did you get here? Demanded the Zephyrian High Commander. We walked through your front door, Bay replied calmly. Your security systems can't detect us. Your guards can't see us. Your weapons can't hurt us. She placed a small device on the table. It projected images of human fleets destroying alien ships across a dozen star systems. The Zephyrians watched in horror as their supposedly invincible forces were crushed by human weapons. This is impossible, one of the commanders whispered. This is just the beginning, Bay said. Tell your people what you've seen here. Tell them that nowhere is safe. Tell them that humanity is coming. The infiltration team vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The Zephyrian commanders were left in darkness, knowing that humans could reach them anywhere, anytime. Meanwhile, Dr. Ojinwu was unleashing humanity's most terrifying weapon from his laboratory on New Busan. It wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was an idea. The virus is ready, he told General Song Wu. It will spread through their computer networks and make their technology turn against them. How does it work? Song asked. Simple, Jinwu replied. Alien technology is very advanced, but it all follows the same basic patterns. They think in straight lines. Humans think in spirals. Our virus thinks like a human. The digital virus spread through alien networks faster than any biological disease. It found weaknesses that alien programmers never imagined existed. Weapon systems began firing at random targets. Life support systems started failing. Navigation. Computers gave wrong directions. On the Krillian homeworld, scientist Prime Zekalon watched in horror as his species' greatest research facility destroyed itself. Every experiment failed. Every computer gave impossible results. Decades of scientific progress vanished in hours. What's happening to our systems? Zekalon demanded. Unknown, Prime, his assistant replied. Our technology appears to be thinking differently. Technology doesn't think, Zekalon said. It does now, the assistant whispered. The virus wasn't just breaking alien technology, it was learning from it. Every alien system it infected taught it new ways to cause chaos. What started as a simple program became something that understood alien psychology better than the aliens themselves. Pilot Lim Tyke was leading humanity's most dangerous missions in space. His squadron flew ships that seemed to have no regard for physics or logic. They dove into alien formations like ancient warriors charging into battle. Ghost Squadron, this is Ghost Leader, Tyke said, over the radio. We're going straight through their center. Follow my lead. His ships moved in ways that terrified alien pilots. They didn't try to avoid enemy fire. They flew directly at the largest alien vessels, firing weapons at point-blank range before disappearing into quantum folds. That's impossible, said a Mordaki ship commander. Nothing can survive flying that close to our plasma cannons. Humans can, Tyke replied, appearing on the alien's communication screen. We survive because we don't fear death. We fear defeat. The human pilots fought with an intensity that alien minds couldn't understand. Most species fought to protect their territory or resources. Humans fought for ideas. They fought for freedom. They fought for the right to exist without bowing to anyone. This psychological difference was destroying alien morale faster than any weapon. Soldiers who had conquered hundreds of worlds began questioning their orders. Why were they fighting beings who seemed to have no fear? Commander Ruhoun was leading deep space operations that struck at the heart of alien power. Her ships appeared in systems that were supposed to be impossible to reach. They attacked targets that were thought to be completely safe. Ma'am, her navigator said, we're receiving surrender requests from 3 Mordaki colonies. Surrender requests? Ru asked. We haven't even attacked them yet. No ma'am. But word is spreading that we can strike anywhere. They're too afraid to fight. This was the power of human psychological warfare. Aliens fought when they thought they could win. When they realized humans could reach them anywhere, many simply gave up without fighting. On Earth, Commander Park Hyun was coordinating humanity's most complex operation. It wasn't about destroying alien fleets. It was about breaking the system that made those fleets possible. Dr. Neri, he said, what's the status of Operation Mindbreak? Working perfectly, sir, she replied. The subordinate species are beginning to question their masters. The Galactic Council's authority is collapsing. The genius of human strategy wasn't just military, it was political. Humans had studied alien society and found its weakness. The Galactic Council ruled through fear and hierarchy. But humans introduced concepts that alien minds found irresistible: individual freedom, personal choice, and the right to rebel against unjust authority. Lower-ranking species that had served the Council for centuries began asking dangerous questions. Why should they obey? What gave the Council the right to rule? Why couldn't they make their own choices? These ideas spread like wildfire through alien space. Revolutions began on worlds that had been peaceful for thousands of years. The four dominant species found themselves fighting not just humans, but their own former servants. War Chief Vextar received the worst news of his military career. Sir, the Gental system has declared independence. They're requesting human protection. Impossible, Vextar said. The Gentals have served us for 800 years. Not anymore, sir. They say humans taught them about freedom. Vextar realized that humanity hadn't just declared war on alien fleets, they had declared war on alien civilization itself. Every battle humans won inspired more species to rebel. Every alien defeat proved that the mighty council could be beaten. Psychological impact was devastating. Alien soldiers began deserting. Alien colonies refused to send resources. Alien commanders started making secret deals with human forces. Sir, Vextar's communication officer said, we're receiving a message from the human fleet. Put it through, Vextar ordered. Commander Park Hyun's face appeared on the screen. He looked as calm as the day he had received the alien ultimatum. War. Chief Vextar Park said, I have a new ultimatum for you. Humans don't give ultimatums, Vextar replied. We do now, Park said. Surrender your fleets and stand trial for war crimes, or watch your entire civilization collapse. You have 24 hours to decide. The connection ended. Vextar stared at the blank screen, realizing that everything had changed. The species he had thought were primitive animals had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and the worst part was knowing that they had brought this upon themselves. 23 hours after Commander Park Hyun's ultimatum, War Chief Vextar stood in his command center watching his empire fall apart. Reports flooded in from across Vectan space. Colony after colony was declaring independence. Fleet after fleet was surrendering to human forces. Sir, his communications officer said with a shaking voice, the Mordaki High Command wants to negotiate with the humans. They're offering to surrender if humanity promises not to destroy their homeworld. Vextar's red eyes burned with rage and despair. What about the Zephyrians gone? Sir, their government collapsed yesterday. The Krillians are asking for human protection from their own rebellious colonies. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled for 10,000 years was crumbling in less than a month, all because they had underestimated a species they thought was primitive. On Earth, President Han Gehan sat in her office reading reports from across the galaxy. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her decisions would reshape the universe. Madam President, said Admiral Park Hyun, who had been promoted after his successful defense of Earth, we're receiving surrender offers from 90% of the former Council species. What about the other 10%? She asked. Still fighting, but they're cut off from supplies and reinforcements. General Lee Day estimates they'll surrender within the week. President Han nodded thoughtfully, and the rebellious colonies, asking for our help to build new governments, Park replied. They want to learn about democracy and individual rights. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. The aliens had tried to enslave humanity, but instead, humanity had freed hundreds of species from thousands of years of oppression. Dr. Kim Nari, now serving as humanity's chief diplomatic officer, entered the room carrying a tablet full of requests. Madam President, she said, we have over 300 species asking to join a new galactic alliance. They want humans to lead it. Lead it. President Han asked. We never wanted to rule anyone. That's exactly why they want us to lead, Nari replied. Every other species that gained power used it to dominate others. Humans use power to protect freedom. Meanwhile, on the former Vectan homeworld, now under human occupation, something unprecedented was happening. The Vectan people were learning what it meant to choose their own leaders. Commander Ruhan oversaw the transition as Vectan citizens held their first free election in their species' history. The former warrior race was discovering that fighting for ideas was more satisfying than fighting for conquest. Commander, said her aide, the Vectan people have elected a new government. They want to formally apologize to humanity for the war. What? Did we tell them? Ru asked. that apologies are nice, but actions matter more. They're offering to help rebuild the worlds they destroyed. Captain Kong Jinyu was leading a very different mission. His stealth ships were searching for War Chief Vexstar, who had disappeared during the final battle. They found him on a small moon, hiding in an abandoned mining station. War Chief Kang said as his soldiers surrounded the alien, "You're under arrest for war crimes." Vexstar looked old and broken. His armor was cracked, his weapons gone. "You won," he said simply. "Why do you need trials?" "Because that's what civilized beings do," Kong replied. "Even to enemies who wouldn't do the same for us." The war crimes. Trials became a symbol of human justice. Instead of executing their enemies, humans put them on trial. Instead of destroying alien worlds, humans helped rebuild them. Instead of creating an empire, humans created a federation where every species had equal voice. Dr. Ojinwu found himself in an unexpected position. The digital virus he had created to destroy alien technology was now being used to help rebuild it. The same program that had caused chaos during the war was teaching alien computers to work better. "It's strange," he told Dr. Shinura, as they worked together on a Krillian science station. "I created this virus to break their systems. Now it's making them work better than ever." "That's very human," Uro replied. "We break things so we can build them back better." The former Krillian research facilities were now joint human laboratories. Species that had once experimented on others were learning to work together on projects that helped everyone. Pilot Lim Taik, the ace who had led suicide attacks against alien fleets, was now training former enemy pilots in new flight techniques. His former enemies were eager students. "Why do you help us?" asked a young Mordaki pilot. "We tried to kill you." "Because the war is over," Taik replied. "Now we build something better together." Engineer Yunhana was working on the most ambitious project in galactic history. Using her gravity manipulation technology, humans and aliens, together, were building space stations that could house millions of beings from different species. "The Harmony stations will be a symbol," she explained to the mixed construction crews. "Places where any being can live in freedom, regardless of what species they are." 3 months after the war ended, President Han Gehan stood before the new Galactic Assembly. Representatives from over 500 species filled the Great Hall. For the first time in galactic history, small species had the same voice as large ones. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered," she said, "but as free beings choosing to work together." The hall erupted in sounds of approval from hundreds of different species. Clicks, chirps, roars, and whispers blended together in a symphony of unity. "Some of you ask why humans don't claim the right to rule this new galaxy," President Han continued. "The answer is simple. Ruling others was never our goal. Our goal was freedom, not just for humans, but for everyone." War Chief Vexstar, now serving his sentence in a rehabilitation center rather than a prison, watched the broadcast with amazement. Humans had defeated the greatest military force in galactic history, then used their victory to create something better than what existed. "Before I don't understand," he said to his human counselor. "You could rule the galaxy. Why don't you?" "Because ruling people who don't want to be ruled makes you a tyrant," the counselor replied. "And humans learned long ago that tyrants always fall eventually." Admiral Park Hyun returned to Earth's orbital station, the same place where the aliens had delivered their ultimatum, but now it was the headquarters of the Galactic Defense Force, protecting free worlds from any who would threaten them. He stood at the same observation window, where he had first faced the alien threat. Dr. N joined him, as she had that first day. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. "We gave everyone a choice," Park replied. "That's all we ever wanted for ourselves." Colonel Bay Summon's infiltration teams had become peacekeeping forces, helping settle disputes between species and stopping conflicts before they became wars. Her soldiers now protected the innocent instead of striking at enemies. "It's funny," she told her troops. "We trained to fight a war, but we ended up preventing them." General Song Woo converted his hidden military bases into schools and hospitals. The weapons factories became research centers. The war machine became a force for building instead of destroying. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Never threaten a species that values freedom above life itself. But it had also learned something wonderful. That same species would fight just as hard to protect others' freedom. On the anniversary of the war's end, President Han returned to address the Galactic Assembly. The Great Hall was even more crowded now, with new species joining the Federation every month. 1 year ago, she said, representatives of 4 species came to humanity with an ultimatum. They said we could choose slavery or death. The hall fell silent, remembering that dark day. They were wrong, President Han continued. We chose a third option. We chose freedom. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone. She paused, looking out at the sea of different faces and forms. They told us to brace for the end we chose. But what we chose wasn't an end, it was a beginning. The applause that followed could be heard across the galaxy. It was the sound of free beings celebrating their freedom and thanking the species. That had made it possible. Commander Park Hyun's words had proven prophetic. The aliens had gotten exactly what they asked for, the end they chose. But that end had become humanity's greatest beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had always wanted. 5 years had passed since the Great War ended. The galaxy looked completely different now. Where once there had been fear and oppression, there was hope and cooperation. But humanity was about to face a new challenge that would test everything they had built. Captain Yoon Hana, formerly the engineer who had created humanity's gravity weapons, now commanded the exploration ship New Hope. Her mission was to map the unknown regions beyond the old Galactic Council's borders. What she found there would change everything again. "Captain," said her science officer, Dr. Park Minjin, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the Andromeda sector. Something big is coming through the deep space gates." Hannah studied the readings on her screen. The energy patterns were unlike anything in their databases. "How big?" "Bigger than anything we've ever seen," Minjan replied. "These ships make the old Vectan war fleets look like toys." Unknown to the peaceful galaxy, an ancient empire called the Hegemony had been watching the war between humans and the Galactic Council. They had expected the Council to crush the primitive humans quickly. Instead, they watched in amazement as humanity destroyed 10,000 years of alien dominance in less than a year. Emperor Thrakton of the Hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship, a vessel so large it had its own gravity and atmosphere. Around him, his advisors trembled as they delivered their report. "The humans are more dangerous than we calculated," said his military commander. "They think differently than any species we've encountered." "Different how?" Thrakton asked. His voice was like grinding stone. "They don't follow patterns, my lord. Our battle computers can't predict their actions because they do things that seem impossible or insane." Thrakton had ruled the Hegemony for 3,000 years. He had conquered entire galaxies, using fear and overwhelming force. But these humans worried him in ways no enemy ever had. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. "Unknown, my lord. They appear to build new fleets faster than any species should be able to, and their technology improves every month." On Earth, President Han Gahan was celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Galactic Federation when the emergency alert reached her. Admiral Park Haeon burst into the celebration with news that made everyone fall silent. "Madam President," he said, "we have a problem. Long-range sensors have detected a fleet approaching from outside our galaxy. It's massive." The celebration stopped immediately. President Han looked around at the representatives from hundreds of species who had been enjoying the party. Many of them looked terrified. "How massive?" she asked quietly. 10,000 ships, ma'am, maybe more. They'll reach Federation space in 6 months." The room erupted in panic. The species that had just learned to live in peace were facing the possibility of another war. But President Han raised her hand, and everyone fell silent. "We've faced impossible odds before," she said calmly. "We'll face them again." But this time was different. The Federation military was designed to keep peace, not fight galactic wars. Most of their ships were exploration vessels and science ships. The old human war fleets had been converted to peaceful purposes. General Li Dae, now head of Federation Defense, called an emergency meeting with all the military leaders. The room was full of humans and aliens who had once been enemies but were now allies. "We have a serious problem," Li said. "The approaching fleet is larger than anything we've ever faced. Our current forces aren't designed for this kind of warfare." War Chief Extar, who had completed his rehabilitation and now served as a military advisor, spoke up. "General, I've studied the enemy transmissions we've intercepted. These are Hegemony forces. They're older and more powerful than the Galactic Council ever was." "What do you know about them?" asked Commander Ruhoun. "They ruled this part of the universe before the Council existed," Vexstar replied. "They withdrew to distant galaxies thousands of years ago. If they're coming back, it means they see something here worth taking." Dr. Kim Nari, now the Federation's chief diplomat, had been trying to contact the approaching fleet for weeks. "They won't respond to any communication attempts," she reported. "Every message we send is ignored." Colonel Bae Soman had been running reconnaissance missions to the edge of Federation space. "My scouts report the same thing everywhere," she said. "These ships don't behave like any military force we know. They don't patrol or scout. They just move forward in perfect formation. Like they're not expecting any resistance." Captain Kong Jinu observed. "Exactly," Bae replied. "They think they're going to sweep through our space without a fight." President Han made a decision that surprised everyone. "We're going to meet them halfway." "Ma'am," Admiral Park asked. "I'm going personally to attempt first contact," she said. "If they want to talk, we'll talk. If they want to fight." She paused and looked around the room. "Well, we'll remind them what happened to the last group that threatened the Federation." Dr. Oh Jinwoo had been working on new technology since the war ended. His digital viruses had evolved into something much more sophisticated. "President Han," he said, "I might have something that can help." "What kind of something?" she asked. "During the war, my viruses learned to think like humans. Now they've learned to think like every species in the Federation. If the hegemony uses networked technology, we can turn their own systems against them. Engineer Yunhana returned from her exploration mission with disturbing news. The hegemony isn't just bringing a fleet, she reported, they're bringing entire worlds. Mobile planets equipped with weapons that can destroy solar systems. The Federation leaders stared at her in shock. Mobile planets? President Han asked. Yes, ma'am. They've turned their homeworlds into weapons. Each one has the firepower of 1,000 fleets. This was beyond anything humanity had ever faced. The old Galactic Council had been arrogant and overconfident, but they were still bound by normal military thinking. The hegemony operated on a scale that seemed impossible. Dr. Shin Yura had been working on new applications of quantum technology. I have an idea, she said slowly. It's crazy, but it might work. Crazy ideas are our specialty, President Han replied. What if we don't fight them in normal space? Yura asked. What if we fight them in quantum space, where size doesn't matter, and the normal rules don't apply? The room fell silent as everyone tried to understand what she meant. You want to move the entire war into a different dimension? Admiral Park asked. Not the entire war, Yura replied. Just the decisive battle. In quantum space, a single human fighter could theoretically damage one of their planet weapons. Pilot Limtyke, who had become the Federation's chief test pilot, grinned. I volunteer for the first test flight. As the hegemony fleet drew closer, the Federation began the largest mobilization in galactic history. But this time, they weren't just preparing human forces. Every species in the Federation contributed something unique to the war effort. The former Zephyrians offered their knowledge of advanced sensors. The rehabilitated Krillians shared their biotechnology research. The Mordaki provided their expertise in defensive systems. Even the smallest species found ways to help. This is what the hegemony doesn't understand, President Han told the Federation Assembly. They see us as separate species that can be conquered one by one. But we're not separate anymore. We're one people with many faces. The hegemony fleet finally dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Federation territory. Their ships were so large that they distorted space around them. Emperor Thrakton expected to find scattered resistance from primitive species. Instead, he found the entire Federation fleet waiting for him. Human ships flying alongside their former enemies. Alien technologies merged with human creativity. A force that had learned to fight as one while thinking as individuals. Impossible, Thrakton whispered. How did they mobilize so quickly? His intelligence officer looked terrified. My lord, they've been preparing for our arrival since we were first detected. Every species in their territory is working together. Thrakton had ruled through division and fear for millennia. The concept of voluntary cooperation was alien to him. President Han opened a communication channel to the hegemony flagship. Her image appeared on Emperor Thrakton's screen, and she spoke with the same calm confidence that Commander Park had shown 5 years earlier. Emperor Thrakton, she said, I am President Han Gaon, of the Galactic Federation. You have entered our space with hostile intent. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw peacefully. Thrakton laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You dare threaten me, primitive. I have conquered 1,000 galaxies. Your entire federation is nothing compared to the hegemony. That's what the last group said. President Han replied calmly. Would you like to know what happened to them? You cannot frighten me with tales of your little war, Thrakton snarled. The Galactic Council were children compared to the hegemony. President Han smiled. It was the same smile Commander Park had given to War Chief Vexstar all those years ago. Then I guess you're about to learn why the galaxy calls us the species that doesn't know when to quit. The communication ended. Emperor Thrakton stared at the blank screen, suddenly feeling something he hadn't experienced in 3,000 years. Uncertainty.